what's up, everybody? Welcome in. We're just about a minute late here on the 60 feet 6 inches regional live stream. So we know it's Memorial Day, so if anybody has a chance to check us out live on YouTube, we're here. If not, tell your friends they can check us out on podcast. It'll be up later on tonight, but we made it. We're here. We're to the regionals, right? It's finally that time of year. SEC tournament's done. Two losses and your season is over. So as we all know, LSU got chosen as the host site and a top national 8 seed. They came in at the number 5 seed. They are paired with the Lexington Regional as Kentucky comes in at the 12 seed. And just really quick before I introduce my guest and we get this sucker going, just want to remind you, y'all can find the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod on YouTube, on all major audio platforms, and it's on Twitter as well. So finally, we got regional baseball at the box again. And let's welcome in the guests, and we're going to have one more guy joining us very shortly. But in the top corner, Alex Day. Alex has joined us on the pod before. Y'all may know him from the Weekend Rotation podcast, and they actually did their big regional show today. Alex, welcome in. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Chris, doing good. Postseason time. Today was, Christmas. Got to unwrap some good presents this morning, some good stuff, and excited for regionals next weekend. That's
it, man. It's been a long season for a lot of us who watch a lot of college baseball, and for anybody that puts out content. I was telling my son the other day, I was like, man, I'm dragging right now. But I want to welcome in my second guest. Y'all know him. I call him Mr. LSU. He's into all things LSU. He's always tweeting about the Tigers. He's been on the podcast a couple times. Stephen Miller, how you doing, brother? Thank you for your time, man.
What's happening, man? Yeah, there you go, brother. This great 3-day weekend, man. Can't beat it.
Yeah, man. And got two more guests joining. Yeah, we got you, man. Can't wait to get into it. Here we go. And then next up from Spittin Seeds 247 account, he took in his first LSU game this year, and I'll never forget the look on his face as he walked into Alec Box Stadium. But Matt is joining us as well. Matt, how you doing, brother? We got you on I know it's a little late on that East Coast time zone, but how you doing, Matt? Thanks for joining us.
Doing well. Season starts next weekend, right?
That's right. That's what I hear. So can't wait to talk to LSU baseball. And then last but not least, y'all may know him from In Off the Bench podcast. He probably has the best, I wouldn't even say Rolodex because nobody uses the Rolodex anymore, Jim, but probably the best contact list in all of college baseball. This dude knows, I think, everybody from the SEC and the ACC. Y'all know him from the In Off the Bench podcast, my man, Jim Cross. Jim, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, and I think you're the best name and number in that Rolodex, brother. So you're the man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Check is in the mail. I don't know. I've seen the list of some of the guys you hang out with and some of those texts you get. So,
but they don't drop stats like you do, brother.
I don't know. We're getting ready to drop some stats here. So, listen, I got Jackson on the back who's running this thing. So send in your questions, your comments. We will get to them in time. And look, this is just going to be a free-for-all, right, with the live stream. These guys know a ton about LSU, know a ton about college baseball, just in general. And we're going to break this regional down, and this sucker's just going to ping-pong back and forth, hopefully a lot of conversation. And at the end, look, we're on a little bit of I appreciate these guys' time, but we're on some time constraints, right? I don't want to keep these guys longer than an hour. I don't want anybody's significant other getting mad at me. And, it's been a long weekend, so we're going to get this going right here. So, and I'll just ping-pong it back and forth with these guys. All right, guys, LSU comes into the regional. They are 43-15, 19-10 in the SEC. That's where they finished up. They went 1-2 in the SEC tournament. When you look back, LSU finished their last 14 games. They were 7-7. And a little bit of a slide started with that Auburn series. They dropped that one, and they dropped the state one, which I thought was kind of not a killer, but it really kind of hurt right there. So, Alex, we're just going to start with you and just kind of go around the horn. How do you feel about LSU coming into the regional? They secured the top 8 national seed, which is really not a surprise to any of us on the broadcast. But how do you feel like they're playing at this time of year with those teams that we're going to get into a little bit later coming into the box?
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing, the way Hoover went, although not totally unexpected. It's not, it's not necessarily Hoover's not necessarily an indication of postseason success, right? There's been plenty of years where LSU's won it and then gotten bounced out early from the NCAA tournament, and plenty of years where we've gone 0-2 and then made a deep run. So you can't take too much away from Hoover, but I think the biggest takeaway was the pitching staff. Pitching staff, played really well. The offense kind of went quiet a little bit, but it's a big ballpark, so But I think they're in a good spot heading into the regionals.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Steven. We talked a lot about the pitching staff, but just when you look at the SEC tournament, kind of how they come in, I definitely don't think they're limping. But what do you think their mindset is heading into the regional with some of the teams they have coming in? They shake off the SEC tournament, or you think there are any lingering doubts for those guys?
Man, I think it may be a blessing in disguise to just get out of Hoover early. I mean, you get over there and you win one game, and you don't have to spend Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as going deep in your pen and stuff. I mean, it could be a big blessing in disguise is just to get back home. And it's like I heard a few guys say, I mean, you can get back home, you can get in your bed, and you can get around your friends and your family and just be comfortable and just have a good 6-7 days off break. And it's just reset your mind. And now it's the real season. I mean, we spent the full season alone, and we had some ups and we had some downs, and we had some real highs. And back in the back end, we had some lows, but man, this team is good. We all know they're good, and we all know where their potential is. It just needs to click. I mean, we started where we were kind of shaky on the pen, and now they're stepping up the game. So, man, I look forward to it.
No doubt. And Matt, obviously we both pitched. Did you see enough in terms of it just seemed like. And Jim's going to provide some really good perspective since he was there. But, Matt, did you see enough from, they lose that series at Auburn, no big deal. Then they lose that series to State, giving up those 2 leads. And they have a chance to sweep Georgia, and they don't really come out on fire on Sunday, and they kind of just never could pull even. Played great against South Carolina. Not bad against Arkansas and A&M. Not enough to get over the hump. But did you see enough, Matt, or did you see some certain things in the SEC tournament that makes you feel a little bit better about how these boys are playing right now?
Team's good enough to win. I mean, at the end of the day, period. The problem I think they had at times is not seeing it themselves, whether it was offensively or pitching most of the year is kind of where, I mean, that's kind of been the Achilles heel all year of LSU outside of Skeens. Floyd's kind of picked it up here at the end, which has been great. We've all loved seeing that. Thatcher Hurd showing up is huge. I think I said it earlier, like when the tournament was this was an opportunity to see maybe some guys that you're going to need at the end of the year. Thatcher Hurd showed up. Floyd, another good outing. Skeens didn't have a great outing, but I'll take a not great outing in the SEC tournament if it means he's back to Skeens the rest of the year.
No doubt. And Jim, you were there Thursday and Friday, I believe. So obviously, a lot of the parents, a lot of players personally, and obviously you kind of hung out with them. And what was the vibe for those guys after I thought South Carolina was probably one of the more complete games, right? So what was your takeaway being there and seeing those guys drop a tough one to Arkansas and then the one to A&M and they're heading home? Just maybe give us a little insight to that. Just kind of, these guys, you talk to them, right? You've interviewed everybody in the SEC, it feels like. What was your takeaway leaving Hoover?
No, their vibe was good. And I think it was to, some of these guys have made the point about the pitching, right? Because ultimately in Hoover, it was the, guys left on base, runners in scoring position. We talked about that last game, for instance, 3 for 20. But, you go to that first game with Riley Cooper and we talk about Thatcher Hurd and Ackenhausen. There are guys we needed to see that way more than hitting because we know at the end of the day we can hit. And when you get the vibe and you talk to the dads and the families, their biggest concern has been our biggest concern. What will these arms do? What will we do outside of Paul Skeens? Ty Floyd has another great outing. It's 3 in a row. And then these guys that we're seeing, step up, especially I loved seeing the Riley Cooper. Riley Cooper is somebody who, man, is, sometimes you feel really good, sometimes you don't. And so to see him come out and just dominate the way he did, see Big Nate do what he did, I think everybody's feeling good. And it's weird to say that, but people take Hoover for what it is. None of the people were upset. After the game, no one was, disappointed or whatever. It's like, all right, now it's on to regional. I thought Alex brought up the point that if we would have went deep into that, it would actually, or maybe it was Steven, I don't know. Anyway, it would have been troublesome. If we would have went through all the arms that we have, it would have been really troublesome coming in this weekend. We'd have been fatigued. Yeah, no, and I think you saw Jay kind of realize that. Not that he was playing to lose, but I think he saw where he's like, well, if we do lose this game, I need to get Coleman in there. I need to get Guidry in there. I need to make sure these guys
throw in a game environment, because that's much better, from my personal opinion, as opposed to throwing some type of simulated bullpen Tuesday or Wednesday against hitters.
Hey, and I got to say something, Chris, that doesn't talk about what we're going to get into, but it speaks to LSU. I mean, you're an LSU podcast. You know, they broke the numbers for Hoover, and being that I went to 7 games in total, the LSU crowd is responsible for that, period. The LSU faithful showed out. The record, the highest game there was an LSU game. All the LSU games, even Arkansas, who I've known to be a very well-traveled crowd. Even that LSU-Arkansas game, it was 3/4 LSU just stacked. And so, man, shout out to Purple and Gold for showing up and supporting this team.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you could see on the TV broadcast that early morning game was maybe not packed, but there was a ton of purple and gold. So one more question, and then we're going to start breaking down the regional just in terms of the draw. Happy, excited, pleased, shocked, all that different things. But I want to talk about the lineup, because you saw Jay kind of experiment with the lineup a little bit. And Steven, we'll go with you first. And you saw Pearson kind of come back into the lineup. But then on the last day, you saw Kling and Jones came in, and I have my theories on that. I think he just wanted to get some at-bats and some game time. But do you think in the regional, I know Jay likes the righty-lefty thing. I get that. Do you think he solidifies a lineup in the regional, and is there one lineup in particular that you'd really like to see him run out there for the next couple games? And I'm just going to ask the same question to the panel. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'd love to see that. Something that was so similar to the day, I think that was the Arkansas game. No, the South Carolina game on just when we had Pearson at the top. I mean, really been thinking this along. It's like down the stretch. If he can get some more at bats and just get comfortable and just know that he's going to play every single day, I know that we can get so much more out of him. And in the last 5 to 6 weeks, it's pretty been telling for a lot of guys that have been kind of struggling. So I'd be willing to bet that the lineup that we see Friday is probably going to be real similar to what we see on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe a little change with the catching stuff with Skeens and stuff, his personal guy. But for the most part, I think we're going to see the same 7 to 8 guys in the lineup.
Yeah, Alex, do you think – we know Jay likes to mix and match, do the righty-lefty thing. But do you think right now he's just going to roll with the hot guys and the lefty-lefty matchups be damned, especially with the way Travinski has moved in, because he's going to catch. He seems like he's Ty Floyd's personal catcher, and if he's not catching, he's got a DH. So, Alex, do you think he rolls with a guy, kind of goes offense-defense in a sense? What do you think he's going to do with the lineup, I guess? That's really my basic question. Would you like to see him stick with certain guys?
Well, I mean, you can't take Travinski out of the lineup. He is the hottest hitter on this team. And, I mean, him and Morgan, pretty much carried this offense through Hoover. Dylan Cruz had, one home run, but that was kind of all you saw from him. And, Tommy White was hurt or rest day or, day to day, whatever it was Jay said, for that. But, he's going to be rested. So you certainly want to see all those guys, I think, like Steven said, the lineup we saw at South Carolina against South Carolina and Hoover, I think that's what I would like to see us stick with. I think I liked Cruz in the leadoff spot there.
Yeah. All right, Matt, before we get to Jim. All right, Matt, so if I told you the lineup against Tulane was Pearson leading off, then Cruz. Let's go White, Morgan. So Pearson's in left. Right, Morgan's back at first, and then the tricky thing I think with the lineup is what are you going to do with Travinski? Then unfortunately they may bounce Beloso if you start Pearson. I think LSU catches a break because they don't have to play Nichols, a team that runs and bunts a lot. They got Tulane, right? But Matt, would you like to see Pearson kind of stay in there and possibly move Trey to first? Or you still mix and match, with some different things in terms of the lineup?
I think that we all agree, and we all agreed early that Trey's been fun to watch in left field, but if we want to win a championship, he needs to be at first base. Put Pearson in the outfield. I like him leading off. I think we talked about it. I like Tommy batting third for the same reason that you argued that Dylan should be batting third, that we don't want the opportunity of him not being able to bat until the second inning. As a kind of a betting man, I would bet that if Pearson, Trey, Tommy went, there's a good chance that Dylan's going to bat in that first inning. Hardly they're going to go 3 up, 3 down. So I like Dylan to bat fourth, because right now I think he's pressing. If there's an opportunity for guys to be in front of him and then you have to pitch to him, I think that his aggressiveness where he can attack early on pitches that he can handle, I think is where we see success, especially early, because we're going to need it. There's been times where we needed it early to win games.
All right, Jim. So I've been in the anti-Cruz leadoff category in that fan club, and then I did the numbers, limited sample size, 5 games that Cruz has been leadoff, and I felt like it got thrown in my face today. Cruz is 7 for 22. That's 318. Only 3 RBIs, 1 home run, but he does have 7 strikeouts and 2 walks in the leadoff spot. And why I don't want him there, because I told Matt, pitcher to pitcher, like, I don't feel like his outs are productive. And it feels like he's more aggressive in the leadoff spot, almost like he feels like he has to make something happen. And I always want his outs to be productive, whether it's a sac fly, moving somebody over. So, I know we all love the Creole Bambino, but he could potentially be a victim if Pearson moves into left. So what are you thinking about this lineup, Jim, as we move into the regional time?
Surprisingly, I still got Beloso in the lineup with Pearson in the lineup, and I got Pearson lead off. I agree with you. So, right, the Cruz numbers are good, but to your point on Preston, it's the strikeouts that give that evident, right? Whether it was, the final series against Bama or whether it was in the SEC tournament, he's striking out well more than he has the entire season, which I think solidifies your statement about he's pressing, right? So, and then y'all have all made it a point that you really feel well with White behind him. So I have Pearson, then Cruz, then White, then Morgan. So I had the same 4 you did, but I still got then Travinsky in the 5-hole. I still got Beloso in the DH right there. My question would be, and he's my favorite player, so this is where that I'm not being biased in any way. Braden Joe Barry is my favorite player. You cannot ignore the lefty-lefty stats. And so if there's a stud lefty on the mound, he can't be in the lineup. That's when and you can even make that argument for Beloso, right? The problem is the problem is the way we how I am. I try not to talk bad about anybody. Jones has struggled. Let's just call it what it is. And Kling has struggled. So to me, I'm going with Beloso because he's a veteran. I'm going with Joe Bear because he's a veteran. But it's really tricky if you get a stud lefty out there. As far as the catcher thing, I wanted to speak on it. You said that Travinsky seems to be Floyd's catcher. Actually, the preference is Milazzo. It really shows. I've had the discussion with both of them. As a matter of fact, all of them's preference is Milazzo. It really speaks to you can't take Travinsky out of the lineup, and what he brings to the table. Milazzo is just a professional. He's that dude. And so it really sucks that for him that Travinsky's killing the ball. It doesn't suck for LSU fans, obviously. But that's his spot. It's going to be, and I think the DH, you look at Beloso, he's coming off 4 for 5 game. Like, it's just, I think it's his. But the one that's the really dicey one is the Joe Bear numbers really stick out bad to me. But I would absolutely start Pearson in left field. And the funny note was, Sports Center number 2 play was Morgan, right? But what we all know, right, that would have been routine for Pearson. It's hard to ignore the fact that he got rewarded for taking a bad route and kind of tripping over his own feet, right? But he did make another jump, leaping catch, towards the wall. So, I mean, Morgan can play it, but just give me Pearson where I feel safe and secure, and give me the best defensive first baseman in the country at first base.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, now that you don't have Nichols, Tulane is just a different animal, right? They have 2 guys on their team that steal bases, and that's it. I think you're going to see – we'll get into the pitching matchups, but I think Milazzo definitely catches Skeens. He's caught Skeens all year. So if Skeens goes game 2, we're going to get into that. The pitching thing is going to be a hot topic. That's something to where you got a DH Travinsky, Beloso. I don't know. It's interesting. You got 3 guys that are kind of vying for one spot there. I think the catcher, whoever's catching, has a lot to say in that. But, all right, let's get into the regional. I'm sure everybody's tired of us talking about all that other stuff. All right, the regional. Here's the graphic up on the screen. LSU is the 5 seed. As they bring in Tulane, I thought LSU caught a major break with Tulane coming in, as those guys are 19-40, and they won the AAC tournament to get in there as they beat, beat ECU to get in there. The 2 seed is Oregon State, who finished second in the Pac-12 this year. Then you have Sam Houston, which is interesting because LSU beat Sam Houston earlier in the year, but in doing some research, Sam Houston finished second in the WAC, but I wonder if they would have made it had they not won the tournament, just because of some of their numbers and maybe Grand Canyon sneaks in. I don't know. I'm not a big RPI guy. But, Alex, we'll start off with you, and then we'll come to Matt next. happy, shocked, pleased on the regional draw. We knew last night that LSU was going to be a host site. Everybody figured 4 to 6 range. But Alex, your take on that draw?
I think it's a pretty favorable draw. I mean, as good as you could ask for. I mean, there were some schools even higher seeded than LSU that got absolutely shafted in their regionals, namely like Wake Forest. I mean, getting Maryland as a 2 seed and you're the number 1 seed. Oh man, that was rough.
I actually think, Alex, and we're going to get into all that later. I think that because Chris talks about what we get to do on our show, all 3 Wake Forest guests have a real beef with Maryland and going to College Park last year. I think the committee's well aware of that. I think they're giving Wake a chance for some get back.
Really?
Well, maybe so. Just looking at it, from outsider's perspective, that looks like a tough draw. But yeah, LSU's draw is pretty favorable. Once Tulane won the AAC, I was pretty confident we were going to see Tulane and not Nichols. They were going to send Nichols elsewhere. And then Oregon State's interesting. I mean, there's some history there between LSU and Oregon State. You think about 2017, 2018. I was talking with some people on Twitter earlier saying that this is kind of like the 2018 Corvallis regional, except in reverse. LSU comes in with all the star power. Oregon State comes in scuffling a little bit. So I think it's an interesting storyline.
Matt, what was your take when you saw the draw? I don't know if you got a chance to see it this morning, but when you saw Oregon State and then Sam Houston, a lot of people have talked about maybe DBU coming here or even North Carolina. Projections are all over the place, right? Nobody really knows. But Matt, what was your take when you saw the draw come out?
I agree with Alex. I mean, it's pretty favorable. I think there's going to be some pretty direct flights from Oregon to Baton Rouge here soon, right? I mean, at this point, especially in the spring. The bigger thing I thought was the matchup at the super regional level because, there was 8 host sites for SEC, and then you knew there was going to be other SEC teams in there, and then where were they going to match up? Were they going to try and shrink that field down as the tournament went on? And I think that was the big thing I saw was not only was our regional pretty favorable for us, but the matchup with Kentucky, it was kind of like, are we really going to see Kentucky out of that regional?
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that towards the end of the show. Steven, when you saw that draw, I know I tweeted out as soon as I saw Nichols to Alabama, and I think that was one of the first games slapped up on the screen. I knew automatically Tulane was coming.
Yeah.
And look, I think LSU could beat Nichols, but I was still concerned that team from 380, bro, down the bayou, man. They had some success against LSU. Obviously, they beat them. But when you saw the draw, happy, shocked, sad, surprised, or like, you know what, that's fair. Let's go get it.
I was relieved, man. Especially late last night, a whole bunch of accounts were spitting out this projection, that projection. Definitely didn't want to see North Carolina here, and definitely didn't want to see. I think I saw where they had. Who was the other team?
Like DBU was another team they were throwing out there.
DBU was the one I didn't want. I'm so glad it didn't happen.
And then Texas Tech saw another one, but I was like, man, so I was shocked actually, and then I started to digging into it, and I was like, Oregon State. I was like, oh man, we got to face them again. But then I dug into it. And I was like, it's not the Oregon State that they were about 4 or 5 years ago for sure. That they've fallen off some, but they're still probably going to be crafty. Is just like they always are.
Yeah, I mean that program. Yeah, I mean they have a history of success, right? I mean they know how to win over there. They know what's expected of them. And the Pac-12 this year was it was everybody that's kind of what and what. It never
right.
Every weekend was just kind of you really didn't know who was going to show up. Jim, I know you thought LSU was going to be a 6 seed. You kind of dug into the RPIs and you were really laying out some different things as far as the bracket was going. When you saw LSU as the 5 seed, I didn't have Clemson as a 4 seed. So when you saw that bracket come out, what did you think about it? I think you did a lot more research than I did in terms of kind of laying out your field right there. So what did you think?
Yeah, no. So the committee clearly said that Hoover doesn't matter for those who wanted to know because Vandy, per the resume, was so close to LSU that going and winning the SEC tournament should have put Vandy over LSU. So, but I have no problem with it as I told you boys. And then when you look at this layout, and the thing was, I had studied Oregon State, not knowing that they were coming to us for a while because I was trying on that whole regional thing, trying to give an argument before they got knocked out early of their own tournament to give a case that if they won that tournament, they could be a regional host site because you needed an upper Northwest team. There were 37 in the RPI. Their strength of schedule is terrible. the Pac-12 was just not that good. And so I was already familiar with Oregon State just not being a great team. They're not a bad team, but when that's your number 2 seed, LSU really got hooked up, in my opinion. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want to get too ahead because you had said it to Stephen when you looked at the matchup with the Kentucky possibly or that region down the line. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, look, this is a revenue-driven sport just like any other one. They want Paul Skeens, Tommy White, and Dylan Cruz in Omaha because when I look at how this thing's laid out, they did us a solid. You still got to win games, and anybody can beat you, so nothing's a give me. But like to Alex's point, when you look at some of these other regions, we really got hooked up.
Yeah, what'd you say, Alex? I think you texted me before you came on, or you texted all of us on the group chat. What, Tulane is the worst team ever to get into a regional? Is that right?
Yeah, they have the worst record of any team ever to make an NCAA tournament.
And I thought it was great at first, Chris. Yeah, I thought it was great at first when they did it, but then it's that point where they show you the first 4 out, right? And they showed the resumes of the 4 teams that got left out, and it's like, damn, man, all those were quality teams that deserve to play baseball, and Tulane is that team that took it from one of them, and you hate it. Like, I mean, Tulane did you won your conference tournament, I get it, but you hate that a team that won 19 games just stole it from a team that was really deserving of being in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they got on a heater at the end, right? They had to come through the losers bracket. They had to win 4 games in a row, and they put up, kind of stealing the thunder a little bit on the preview podcast that I'll release, but they scored like 10, 11, 8, 11, 8 in 4 games in a row. So, I mean, they're on a hot streak in terms of swinging it. You know, their pitching is a different story. But, all right, Matt, we'll go with you.
It's crazy.
Well, go ahead. No,
so I was gonna say I was looking at their schedule, and as I was trying to see, is like down the last stretch, is like when the light switch flipped on, but it really didn't. Like, because the last month of the season, they won 4 games total, and then 1 week of the playoff or the tournament, they won 4 games in one week. It's just wild.
Y'all know University of Memphis is rock throwing distance. That's where my wife goes down the street. They worked over Tulane, and their team that's not even close to sniffing the tournament. So I was very familiar with how bad Tulane was.
Yeah, and LSU obviously beat him in the midweek this year, but it's going to be interesting. Those guys will have a lot of pride, obviously, and a lot to play for. Excuse me. All right, Alex. This was debated on Twitter. This is maybe a shot out of the dark. I had some discussions with people on Twitter. I just want to get y'all's take on it. LSU chose to play the 2:00 game on Friday. They could play the 2:00 game, or they could play the night game. I know why they chose to play the 2:00 game. But I'm just curious with my guests. They watch a ton of college baseball. Would you have chose the 2 or would you have chose the 7? I gotta know.
I mean, as the fan, I would want the 7:00 game, but I get Jay. I mean, Jay's never going to pick the late game. That's just not. It's not what Jay's going to do. He's shown us that time and time again this season. I mean, you think about the opening weekend, right? Opening weekend, he moves the game up, to like noon or from a night game. I mean, that's what Jay's going to do. If he has that opportunity, he's going to take the early game. And so just, it's a little disappointing because you don't get, Saturday night in the box, for Friday night in the box. But, the other 2 games, assuming that we land in that winner's bracket, they'll be night games.
Yeah. Jim, I'll go to you. Now, what if I said, look, I understand you want the rest and the weather. Everybody's going to talk about the weather, potential for rain. And Stephen, before we got in here, shot us the old weather report. But what if I could say, look, Jim, I want to play checker. I want to play chess and not checker. So I'm going to make Oregon State play in 95, 90-degree weather, and their equilibrium's all thrown off, and I'm going to make them play the early game, and their body clock's not used to this time zone, right? And if they lose, they got to play the early game again in the heat again. Now, they get more time to recover, but I want those dudes sweating it out and being miserable. Does that matter to a coach, or he's going to be like, I just want my guys to rest? What do you think?
No, that's absolutely the route I would win. That's why I shook my head as soon as you brought it up. Like, instead, our boys are going to be out there, dude. I get hot just watching. These boys are playing all the time. And, like, I'm saying, like, me and Steven, we heavy, bro. Like, we look, okay, as fans, we don't even want to watch it 2:00, okay? So, no, they absolutely should have put them boys out in the heat. That Baton Rouge heat this time of year is no joke, and went that route. But, I've questioned Jay on so many things, and at the end of the day, Jay gets paid a lot of money to do what he does, and I don't get paid anything, and I'm not a coach. So, I mean, I can only question and say that he does things wrong so much. Like, I'm going to roll with him. This is the route he wanted. He chose it for a certain reason. But, yeah, Oregon State, I mean, to your point, it would have been a noon game to them.
Yes.
And it's going to be on a guess without looking at I know Steven sent the thing, but I didn't look at what the heat was. I just saw the rain percentage.
It's going to be about 90.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot, bro. It's going to be humid.
The first thing I wanted to look at was the rain percentage. I wouldn't, but yeah, it's going to be in the 90s. It's going to be hot. Like, I would have absolutely made them feel it.
Matt, obviously, I know you pitched in college and stuff. What if I'm like, hey, Matt, you got the ball, but you got to pitch in like 95? You're like, coach, bro, you're killing me, man. Come on now. I mean, Thatcher Hurd's a West Coast dude. I know he's been down here, but what you think, Matt? Does it matter or not? College kids, who cares? It doesn't. They'll be fine. I mean, does the time of game matter, Matt?
Well, I was going to say, I know you guys weren't leaving this out, but I think the biggest thing is Jay's not making these decisions without probably talking to the team like, hey, do y'all want to play at 2 or do you want to play at 7? And I have to imagine they probably want to get this game over with, get it done. Let's get back to the house and relax. At this point, I mean, that stuff mattered, but you can remember, I mean, if you're used to something already, I mean, just roll with it. The one team that isn't going to be is Oregon State. Take advantage of it, because even if it's a night game, I was there in March for the Tennessee game. It was hot. It was muggy. I can't imagine what it's going to be in come June. It's going to be muggy. So let them get that thick where your jersey's, wet and heavy. That's the kind of game that you get them worn out on.
I'll say this, Matt, for the fans that maybe, were more casuals and they're jumping in and they want to be a part of the powerhouse, right? Hey, hydrate your ass off, because I've been to regionals around this time of year. It's hot.
Yeah. Steven, I guess Steven, just kind of hit me. Maybe Jay is playing chess, right? He's like, look, those dudes are going to battle out at night, and whoever loses got to go home. And I don't know if the schedule hadn't been released yet in terms of times. I would imagine that Saturday game's probably going to be at like 11 or 1. So it's like they're gonna battle it out. Then those suckers got to get up and play in that heat. So maybe he is playing chess. I don't know. What you think?
The Saturday game's at 2.
It's at 2. They already put it out there.
Yeah.
Ooh,
quick turnaround.
Big concern is with us fans is trying to get to the game on Friday. Take off
They don't care about that.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
tailgate. I mean, a lot of that it goes into the gripes, but hey, I mean,
it's 3 o'clock Eastern.
That's actually Chris. You talk about my relationships. Like, that's actually a real problem that I wasn't even thinking about until Steven just brought up. There have been numerous times, man, when we've just had a Friday night 6 o'clock game, the regular, and dads are running in like in the first inning, trying to get there from work to Steve's point. Just because their kid plays college baseball don't mean they can take off work. The world don't just stop for all that, right? No, Steven's actually right. There's going to be some families that are probably going to have to use their vacation days or beg their boss or whatever favors they got to be able to get to the game.
No doubt. They got dudes developing a cough right now, just ready to plan for that sucker. So, all right, Alex, go ahead.
No, I was just going to joke about, I got this cough. I think it's going to start about Thursday, but I need to take off on Friday.
That's
just
it.
to make sure.
All right, Alex, this has been already debated on Twitter. It's going to become a hot topic around Baton Rouge. You got Tulane, then you got the money game. You win that money game, somebody's got to beat you twice. Who are you, Alex Day? Who are you starting game 1 of this regional?
It's Thatcher Hurd. I mean, it's got to be. If it was going to be Nichols, I would throw Ty Floyd in game 1.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anymore, but just you feel.
Just because I think like you got to win that game, and I trust Ty a little bit more than I thought.
Okay.
Ty's 7-0. Ty's got a little bit more experience than Thatcher does. But Tulane's a team. I'm 19-40. That's a team that Thatcher Hurd should easily go out and dominate.
Midweek game. Yeah.
Exactly. Midweek game.
Steven, you going with Hurd? Or you looking? What if I said you start Javen Coleman and you give him 4 innings and maybe LSU's up 5-0, and then you go to somebody else? You take that chance, or you go with Hurd or somebody else?
No, I'm going with the commodity here. I'm going to roll out Hurd, get about 4 or 5 innings, and then turn it over. And hopefully by then the lead's big enough to where we don't matter. But eventually this hot streak form has got to end. I mean, the law of averages is got to kick in because 19-40 and they won four in a row just last week. There's no way that can just stay hot. But so I got Thatcher Hurd, no doubt.
Matt, are you sticking on the Hurd bandwagon, or I know you're not throwing Skeens, are you? Throwing Skeens against Tulane or what? Hurd? Would you take a chance on Coleman now that you got Tulane?
I actually go Floyd, and there's a reason why. The reason why
All
is
right.
the last two outings have blown up on him, not because of his fault, but they've happened to him, and it's almost to the point where he could be like a guy. It's like, what else do I have to do to win a ball game when I've pitched well? I'd like to see him get a good outing because we're going to need him come super regional time. We got to make it out of regionals, obviously understand that, but let him get game one, and then we can do with whatever we want. I understand Thatcher Hurd, but 19-40 is 19-40.
So you're going with Floyd then, or no?
Mm-hmm. I want Floyd.
So you trust? Wow. After Floyd's last couple outings, you'd rather, assuming LSU
That's
wins
why.
the first two. Okay. Interesting. Jim, who you got? You got Hurd, Floyd, Skeens, Coleman, Blake Money.
I was looking at these stats. I ain't gonna lie, Matt had my wheels turning simply because Ty Floyd's been phenomenal, and so the immediate thought would be who you wouldn't. But I'm looking at Thatcher, and he went 5 innings. Obviously, gave up only 2 against Georgia with 5 Ks, and then 5 1/3 against South Carolina. Gave up 3 with 4 Ks. And he's been good enough to where I feel like his confidence is there that maybe he's a guy you don't want to throw in that first game, and Ty, it maybe give him a chance to continue to build that confidence. So Matt got me thinking, but I still think the play is Thatcher Hurd. And based on those stat lines I gave you, Thatcher's feeling himself right now. You get him out there, and if he goes out there and throws another performance like he did the last 2, I think going forward, you've got the guy that we wanted from the start of the season.
Yeah, Matt, you got me thinking a little bit, but
yeah, Matt, you got my wheels turning. Matt,
it's a boring show if it's unanimous.
I will say, if LSU can win game 1 and then if Skeens does what he's capable of doing against either one of these teams, then the guy I trust in game 3 would be more Floyd than Hurd, just because of what Ty has done. And you look at the stats from his last 4 or 5 outings. If he can, it's not a big if anymore. I really trust him lately. But if he can get through that first time through the order, he settles in really, really good. I just feel like that's a lot. But I don't know.
If you look statistically, Chris, you would think that the bullpen hates Ty because these games that he's doing phenomenal is when we get lit up. We're like, all right, we're gonna screw Ty out of a dub because they've done it the last 3 times he's came out there and done great. So it's actually pretty funny. Yeah. So it's like, oh, we ain't giving Ty the dub. So I don't know what Ty did in the locker room, but like they're like, we screw this one.
I don't know. I feel like if you throw Floyd against Tulane, and Jay has not shown any type of ability or like he wants to throw Ty 4 or 5 and then bring him back again on a Sunday, potentially to close the game out. I just feel like if Hurd can go 5, then I just want to blow Ty in that game 3 to try to get LSU to Omaha, and I would just trust him more in that situation because then if you got another – I don't know. It just
Chris, to be specific, I would go – I'm looking back at it, and obviously it was there, but like that South Carolina game, I'd go that exact same way. I would go Hurd to Ackenhausen. Like I would try to run that same recipe and see if I can get it again, especially against a Tulane team that you should be able to.
Alex, what do you think? I know we've been on this topic a minute, but it's going to be a topic of debate. So did Matt switch your theory or sticking with Hurd?
Nope, I'm sticking with Hurd. I agree with Jim. You go Hurd to Ackenhausen, and then I think you go Friday or Saturday you go Skeens to Guidry, and then the last one you go Ty Floyd, and then whoever you trust most, whether Javen Coleman, maybe Griffin Herring, somebody like that.
All right, that brings us into the next topic. All right, let's go ahead. Huh? What if?
What if? Is piggybacking off Matt. What if, just big if now, if we do start Floyd against the game 1, run him out there for 4 innings, we get a 6-run lead or so, and he's about 40 to 50 pitches, pull him out, bring in Hurd for the last 3 innings, 10-run them, and then you're set up to come back on Sunday.
Well, I got a couple questions with that.
What?
One is, I don't know if is the 10-run rule in effect
No,
for the
that's
region?
that's an SEC rule.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Oh,
So,
man.
well, I mean,
I just blew that up.
I just Jay
Sorry,
is
Matt.
just
Still
yeah,
hasn't heard.
Jay's still cautious with these guys. Look, the goal is
Look, hey, and let's be honest, Chris, but to just blow Steven's whole thing up, man, look, I'm not playing around at all. I was there for obviously the Mississippi State game 3. No lead I'm playing with. The 9 runs I watched, it disappeared. I'm putting my foot on teams' throats and I'm rolling the hell out.
You got to.
No, I hear you. All right, let's move into real quick. So let's look at no disrespect to Tulane. We're just going to push them aside for a second. Let's focus on Sam Houston and Oregon State. And I know it's early. The brackets just got released. Y'all probably haven't had a ton of time to dig in, but I want to get to this and then kind of wrap up on some of the other regionals and maybe get a College World Series 8 out of y'all before you head out of here. Is there anything, Alex, we'll start with you again. Sam Houston State or Oregon State, anything that you're very concerned with, something that worries you about these guys, or just to kind of let the audience know maybe they hadn't had a chance to really get into these teams yet or know a ton about them?
Well, I can tell you that nothing like where I'm like nervous or scared about anything that any of these teams do. But one important thing to know about Oregon State is this. This isn't your dad's Oregon State team, right? This is not the team that we played in 2017 and 2018. They are kind of scuffling on the mound a little bit, although they have a better team ERA than LSU does. But I think that speaks more to the SEC than it does, versus the Pac-12 than it does the quality of Oregon State's pitching staff. But this is an Oregon State team that hits more than past. They hit 79 home runs that broke their program record for home runs in a season. They've hit a ton of doubles and 119 doubles. I mean, their offense begins and ends with Travis Bazzana, all conference, all Pac-12 kid, who's a ton of fun to watch. He's fast, so he's hitting 370, and he's got 36 stolen bases on 39 attempts. So that's their key guy. Him and Garrett Forster. They get Travis Bazzana on, and then Garrett Forster brings him home.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Steven, what you got? Sam Houston State, Oregon State, for people that may not know a lot about them, and I know we're all just kind of digging into them. Concerns, cautions with these two teams?
Yeah, man. Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's just like Alex said. I mean, I just the first thing that jumped off the stat page to me, it was Travis's stats. I mean, it's just like everything starts, begins, finishes, ends with him. I mean, the dude is there, Dylan Cruz / White in one player. I mean, he's got 36 stolen bases, and side fact, the entire team of LSU has 26. So I mean, the dude. I mean, and the second guy is I think that's Micah McDowell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got 15. So I mean,
right
between him and Travis, I mean, they've got 36 doubles. So I mean, they're fast, they're getting on base. And that's the major thing that just jumped off the stat page to me.
Now here, all right, Jim, and then we'll go to Matt. Jim, what if I told you Sam Houston, they got 2 guys hitting over 400. They got 1 guy that's hitting better than Dylan Cruz. Yeah. They got 98 bags. They're a top 10 offense in the country. Even though we beat them earlier this year, they've kind of turned things around. So anything with regards to Sam Houston or Oregon State that concerns you, or you should maybe some of the people listening to the pod should be leery about?
No, I'm not really concerned with either. I actually went back to look because obviously it's hard to remember how the Sam Houston game went, other than I remember we drilled them, and it broke my heart, guys. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this on this podcast. Do you know who the 2 pitchers were in that game for us? Chase Shores and Garrett Edwards. They threw 5 2/3 a combined 1-run ball, striking out left and right. Edwards got the win, and it just looking back at that, I was like, I wish I would have never went back and looked at the same. I was like, cool, man. Our guys that we lost, but no. I did look. Here was the thing. So they're 38-23. All their non-con games to the bigger schools, whether it be the Texases of the world, DBU, they got worked and they got worked by us. So when it seems to when they've played great competition, they haven't done it. And then, like I told you earlier, I did all the studying up on Oregon State before I even knew we were going to play them. I'm not impressed. I'm not trying to overlook anyone. This is the tournament, but like I said, I think we got dealt favorable. So I'm not scared of either of them, especially with Skeens being on the mound. So bring it.
I hear you. Matt, I know you're okay. Matt, wrapping up with you on Oregon State, perennial power, won a couple of national championships. Really good program. Those guys know how to win. They know how to win at a high level. They played in a big time conference. Sam Houston State, probably looking for some payback, obviously. And those guys can swing it. Concerns with regards to who LSU may be playing in the regional right here?
I mean, you guys have covered pretty much everything with both of these teams. The biggest thing that I want to see from LSU is getting in, getting out, quick, get it over, be done with it, because we do not need to give any team a puncher's chance. No. Any team that gets in a game with us and has a puncher's chance has a puncher's chance with us. So if we can get in and just be quiet about our business and get over with it, that's all I care about. Let's just be done with it.
No, here, I mean, that's the goal, especially with game one, right? I mean, I have a good idea, and I'll get into it in the preview pod, but, they got some hometown kids that'll be going for Tulane, some really local Baton Rouge kids, and I think one of them's going to be their pitcher. So it's going to be interesting. I don't want the LSU fan base to get freaked out if it's 2:30 and it scores nothing in the fourth. Just relax. Yeah. It just takes a little while sometimes. All right, let's move on to the super regional matchup, and we're going to put up the Kentucky graphic as LSU is paired with Kentucky in the super regional. I don't like that LSU is paired with another SEC team. Kentucky brings a little something to the table. Alex, we'll start with you. One, how do you feel about matching up Kentucky? Two, does Kentucky even make it out of here? I think West Virginia may have a little something to say about it up there in Lexington. Alex, what do you think about that?
Kentucky's going to have a fight on their hands for sure. Kentucky's definitely has a fight on their hands. Indiana, don't count Indiana out either. That's a pretty good Big Ten team. I know the Big Ten's basically a mid-major in baseball, but that's a pretty good team. So Kentucky is definitely going to have a fight on their hands. If they do make it out of there and they come down to Baton Rouge, we beat Kentucky 2 out of 3 once. We can do it again. Certainly that's a team that we're familiar with, and I don't know if y'all remember, but that series got pretty chippy. I think some of the guys would.
Is that the Bear Jones series?
What's that?
I don't know, but
I think that's the Bear. I think that's where Bear Jones. Let them know.
Alex. Now you mention it. I forgot. I don't think they even shook hands at the end of the series. They didn't shake hands. So that's wow. I forgot about that.
If you want to. Go ahead. A guy who was very unhappy with that performance, he said it out loud. He said it to me. Skeens was very unhappy. Remember, that was actually low-key, that was his worst performance. Most people actually forget that. He gave up 5 runs that game. Skeens, talk about a guy who's going to be ready to go back against Kentucky if that happens.
Yeah, what Matt and Steve, Matt, we'll go with you. What do you think about being matched up in that Lexington regional? Do you think Kentucky is out of it? Is that a good? Do you feel? I don't like it because they've already seen Skeens. Right, and they had some success against him, and they bring something different to the table, right? They like to run, they like to bunt. They're just a different animal. Matt, what do you think about LSU getting paired up with the Lexington regional?
I thought there was an opportunity for LSU to be paired up with any SEC regional, because I really think that they were going to, while they gave everybody, 8 of them host sites, I really thought they were going to try and thin that herd pretty quick going into the College World Series, and they obviously, believe that that's the case. They probably think Kentucky might get clipped earlier before that, which is why they maybe matched us up with that. I don't know. I like seeing that regional, that super regional matchup, because we haven't hosted in a while, and I think all of us here, I want to see the boys back in Omaha, period. So, as easy road as we can get, I'll take it.
I had it pulled up, bring it back. They at home though, I will say this, they're 25-6 at home on the year, Chris. They love being at home.
Yeah, they're definitely made for the turf, right? They're kind of like Vanderbilt a little bit, right? They speed, that ballpark's huge. They don't hit their home runs it's under 50. I think, if I had to guess. But Steven, what do you think about being matched up with the Lexington Regional? Just their different brand of baseball. Look, I don't think their arms are any good at all, really. Their
No.
arms aren't really overpowering for the most part. What do you think about that, Steven, if you could project?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, I'd rather them is facing them instead of facing someone like Bama or someone like an Auburn. But it's thinking, like you said, it's like facing Skeens the second time. I mean, we just saw what Arkansas did is facing him the second time. They had a very, very good game plan, and it seemed like it worked. But so I think it's not like our chances here. I mean, just Kentucky. I mean, hopefully by then our bats will be done firing on all cylinders after this weekend, and we can go into the Super and just keep rolling. Because I mean, man, it's just like everybody said. If we had dreamt up of a pathway with no potholes or the fewest that you can imagine, this would be it. I mean, just doesn't get much easier than this. I mean, and then it's not a definite that they even make it out of there. So
yeah, no doubt. I think I know West Virginia's a good team. Look, I haven't dug into them at all, but I know they caused some havoc in the Big 12, and they got a couple of really good players.
They've lost their last 5, Chris. Just to be clear.
They? Yeah, it's I don't know anything about them besides that. I just know they're a little bit better than I thought they were. We're going to bring up this comment, and then we're going to move on to y'all's take on the regionals as a whole. But Mike says, is the box not exciting to watch an LSU game anymore? I hear a lot of people saying it's just isn't the same anymore. Why? Please explain. Look, I played the old box. I was very lucky. Look, the new box is definitely nicer. I just think it's in my opinion, it's a more sterile environment. It's a more cookie cutter experience. The fans aren't as close. I think some of the fans that were at the old box are older now, right? So they're in their 60s and their 70s, and it's just a different environment. They got to do some things to bring the students back in, maybe figure out a way to make the I don't know what the answer is, but it can get a little sterile environment. Sterile. We've all been to the games. We'll go around the horn really quickly because I want to get y'all's take on the regionals as a whole. But Jim, what do you think about Mike's environment question right there?
I mean, I can speak to this because of going to all of them. I mean, it's up there, and to use a non-biased LSU person, right? Randy was with us there for that Tennessee, game, and so he got to see it at its best, and he said it was absolutely electric, better than he ever expected. When the box is rocking, it's definitely not overrated in even the slightest, and so. When you look at how everybody's jumped aboard, like I said, I talked about how they were in Hoover. I think Alex Box is going to set records. I think it's going to be absolutely electric. Obviously, maybe that 2:00 hot game to start with Tulane may not be your biggest one, but no, I don't think that the box is still top 5 in my opinion. It's obviously it's not a Duty Noble. It's not a Baum Walker, but it's still up there.
Right. Yeah, Steven, what do you think? I mean, obviously, Baton Rouge guy, born and bred. What do you?
The Friday nights that I've been to when Skeens was there, when we had Mississippi State in town, when we had Tennessee in town, we had all the big teams there. It was rocking, and it was standing room only. And you go to the bathroom in the third inning, and you got 5, 6, 7, 8 rows of deep of people just standing around. Man. It's still there. Don't fall victim to the casual. Well, it's not what it used to be, brother. Mike, come down Saturday night to our stadium. Alex Box, it's going to be electric. Trust me.
Alex, I'll get your take on this, and then we'll get into the regional take. But I was there, I was there with you, standing next to you, and actually everybody on this podcast. I think Steven was the only one had the nice seats for the Arkansas-Tennessee series. Everybody else standing up. But we saw it get electric when Skeens was throwing Friday night. What do you think about atmosphere at the box?
I mean, it's a ton of fun. It's loud. It may not be quite as hostile. I don't know, maybe as the old box was. Like you said, the fans are not quite as top of you. They're not kind of heckling as much as maybe they did in the old box. And I think some of the security people there just kind of need to chill out, especially around the student section. Like, let the students be students. It's okay. You don't need to throw someone out because they said a cuss word. Like, just chill. But I think that's the only real difference other than that, I mean, it's loud and it's a ton of fun.
Alex, would you say it's because we don't have, whether it's calling hogs or Texas A&M's thing, like we don't have any like cult like chants that we do that like take over the stadium is maybe why people don't regard us that way? Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I guess, we don't have like the beer showers or, whatever, anything like that. But, we don't need that stuff. We just scream and holler.
All right, let's move on as we're getting ready to butt up against the hour time limit. And I told y'all I want to respect these guys' time on this Memorial Day night. All right, we're going to put up the graphic, and this is going to go kind of quick. I know we could all probably sit down here for another hour and break down different regionals and our thoughts. But let me get y'all's takes on the regionals, and maybe one or two that stood out. If there's a specific regional of death, like the World Cup, they always call you like the pod of death. There's a regional of death, and then maybe like a one or two upsets, a 2 or 3 seed that may be coming out of a regional that y'all could see. Jim, if you want to start that off, and maybe give me your take on that, on the regionals as a whole. Maybe who's got the hardest one, you think?
Okay, well, just on the regionals as a whole, let me get off my soapbox real quick and just say, I don't agree with having 8 SEC teams. I thought, Campbell, ECU, Southern Miss, DBU, any of those teams could have been a host. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. You can hear my show. I ran about it. I don't agree with it. But for me, there's 2 of them that are the region of death, in my opinion. I think it's Oklahoma State's in Stillwater. Oral Roberts, you got a 46-11 team. You got a DBU team who got, I believe, absolutely hosed, right? And then and Oral Roberts is your 4, and then you got Washington in there. So I feel like that one is a huge one. I don't actually have Oklahoma State coming out of there, just to be clear on that one. And then I think you talked about this one, Clemson, right? The Lipscomb and Tennessee draw. I don't want to get too deep in that one, but I got, let's call it what it is. I'm gonna say it. I mean, I got Tennessee taking that region.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of home runs. If y'all have never seen Clemson's ballpark, and I've watched a lot of highlights of them, their ballpark is an absolute joke. It's 310 to left, 390 to center. That thing is going to be a pitcher's beware, boy. It is not going to be friendly confines up there this weekend. With Charlotte's got the nation's leader in home run. I think that dude's got 30 now. Lipscomb, I think they beat Vanderbilt in the midweek. I wouldn't be surprised if Lipscomb beats Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Alex, let me get your take on any regionals of death out there, and any upsets. Anybody, a 2 or 3 seed you could see coming out of any one of these regionals?
Yeah, I think the Miami regional is going to be really interesting. A lot of fun to watch. You got Louisiana Lafayette and Texas in there against a really an up and down Miami team. Yeah. Texas has been up and down too, but the Cajuns have a really solid team. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas came out of that regional, just mostly because Miami fans don't show up, and it's so you're not afraid of going into that ballpark. And Texas is they're a good team. So I would look for Texas coming out of there. And then I agree with the Oregon State's the other regional of death.
Yeah.
No, Oklahoma State. Sorry, not Oregon State.
Oklahoma State. Yeah. Steven, what you got in terms of toughest regionals and maybe a shocker? What about Campbell? Maybe pissed, a little chip on their shoulder, as our guy DP says in the chat. DP,
but that's not an upset to me. That's the thing. That's why I didn't pick.
I don't think it would be.
Yeah. I mean, what you got, Steve? And then I'll come to Matt.
Just jumps off is Campbell. I mean, and they're right there in their backyard. They're not too far, and they're going to go there with a huge chip on the shoulder. Ziluke Farm is just to walk through there, and who are they paired up with? Is that
South Carolina?
Who's back home? Stephen, let me ask you a question. 15 of the 16 top RPI teams made it. Campbell being the only one. I mean, if you hear that stat and you're Campbell,
right.
I mean, how pissed off are you for real?
A lot, big time. I mean, Ziluke Farm is just to walk through there fairly easy. I mean, they're a damn good team.
Matt, what you got? Go ahead, Steven. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
We got who's up in there? Coastal and Duke's playing.
Yeah, Coastal and Duke. I think that regional's what and what. And UNC Wilmington is no joke. They're not scared of any of those teams. I think that they're all throw them in a bag and pick somebody out.
ZCU's real good too. So I mean that whole big pot of 8 there is going to be. So I don't think a 1 seed comes out of that pod of 8 teams. So I definitely think we're going to have a 2 seed out of there.
To just Chris, so I can let the boys go the rest of the way because I didn't get to pick like an upset one. I do have only 1-3 advancing, and I have North Carolina taking Indiana State, and that's not even because of Indiana State. North Carolina is starting to play the brand of ball that I expected them to from the start of the season, and I don't know how Iowa managed to be a 2 in that region. So, like, yeah, so somehow Iowa, you got them as a 2, and then you got Indiana State, who's beatable. I feel like UNC for a 3 got an amazing draw, and I feel like that's going to be the only 3 I got as an upset taking their regional.
Yeah.
The issue for UNC is going to be that Vance Honeycutt is not available this weekend.
Really? He's out?
Yeah,
is that breaking info, Alex? Did you just drop breaking info?
No, that's out. That's out on Twitter.
Well, he is a dude.
Twitter
Matt,
official.
I haven't got your take. Give me what you think, and then I don't know. What about Fullerton, Matt? Have you looked at that Stanford regional with the Aggies and Fullerton? Can we see old school Fullerton come back?
Well, I was going to say the one regional west of Omaha.
It's got
it's got A&M in it. Arguably one of the hottest teams in the country now. They don't take care of business in the SEC championship, but the team's hot just like last year. They're pesky. It's not a team I'd want to play, especially in a regional. And now they got to travel and go west. I mean, they're going to be upset about it. I don't know if Cal State's there. I don't know if they'll ever be back. The West Coast is really struggling. The one regional, though, that I think a team could come out of is Tennessee for the exact reason you talked about, the field being small. Tennessee's probably got the best pitching staff in that regional. If they can keep the ball in play and keep it in the stadium, they have a good chance of going out of there, especially with a team like Clemson, who's been hotter than hot.
Matt, let's call it what it is. If Tennessee's pitching staff finds themselves for who they are, they're still the best in the country. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you got Lindsey, Dolander, Beam, and Burns, I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's and I almost forgot. I got to give a shout out to my guy Britt Yunt, who's a very good friend of ours, friend of the family, friend of my son's. He plays at George Mason. I told him I would give a shout out to George Mason, as they came back and beat Dayton in the losers bracket, then came back and beat St. Louis 2 times to win the A10 tournament. And yes, welcome to your NCAA regionals. They get to play Wake in that regional. But I got to shout out to George Mason and Britt. Good luck to you guys. And how about really quick, and we're going to end on this one real quick, but Maryland, one of the best offenses in the country, going up against potentially the best pitching staff. But Maryland, that would be interesting. Maryland, Jim, I know you got a lot of connections to that. But
look, the whole curse doesn't happen in the regionals. It's the supers where you got to worry about the 1 seed coming down. So with that being said, I think they absolutely rip through here. And I'm going to tell you something, because we talk about these relationships. Brock Wilkins got a chip on his shoulder. This dude had numbers that would have made him possibly ACC Player of the Year. Somehow he ended up second team All ACC. And so you got that. These pitchers, we talked about how great they are. Nikki Nukes is on fire. Your boy Tommy Hawk, I'm gonna call you out on this podcast. You hating on Tommy Hawk. Tommy Hawk is absolutely killing it. Dude, Wake is legit. The only way they lose is for real this curse. They remind me way too much of the way Tennessee was last year. Just seemed like they were unbeatable, and then they were beatable.
Alex, you worried about – go ahead. Y'all worried about Wake and Maryland over there? Or Wake and Alabama possibly? Alabama's got some pitching.
Get one from Wake. You think so, Jim?
I mean, Alabama's got some pitching there in the super regionals, but I mean, Northeastern has a really good pitching staff too. They're one of the best pitching staffs in the country.
Let me ask you guys on the Bama thing, because we didn't really talk about it. How excited would y'all be if Nichols took that region? That would be awesome.
Dude, Bama's rolling through that region.
No, but I got them picked, but I still just, my heart wants Nichols to take that region and just blow that whole thing up.
Yeah. No,
that's a regional you can't bet on.
That's funny. So, all right, we're going to wrap it right here, a little bit over an hour. Look, I want to thank all of my guests. I want to respect their time and let them enjoy the rest of their Memorial Day weekend. Look, I truly appreciate them. Make sure you check out Alex and his crew on the Weekend Rotation podcast. Jim's got his own podcast with DB and Jeezy and Off the Bench. Matt's part of the Spittin 24 Seeds 7 account, and obviously Stephen Miller, Mr. LSU, all things LSU, tweeting about everything. He's finding all kind of stuff. So,
Chris,
go
let me
ahead,
ask
buddy.
you. I'm gonna ask the panel real quick because we're wrapping up season 7. We got Cade Kuehler coming on from Campbell. I'm gonna ask the panel: does Cade sound off, or does he keep it cool and just keep it about his story, or does he sound off about Campbell getting screwed? I want to know everybody's opinion right here.
I think
hope
he
he's
sounds
silent about it.
Silent.
What do you say, Alex? Alex, what'd you say?
I said, I hope he sounds off about it. I hope he gets mad
Yeah.
about it on the podcast. That's good content right there.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm going with you, Matt. I'm saying, look, he's going to keep it low key on the pod because he doesn't want
Still
to
got a
stir
regional
up.
to play.
Look, you interviewed Ethan Petrie. You don't think Petrie's going to catch wind of that if he hears him on your
Bro,
podcast?
the Petrie story was so funny because he wasn't signing autographs for anybody. He straight walked by and then he stopped and he turned around and he messaged me and he said because he knew it was me because what other LSU fan would be standing there waiting to talk to him? So, he was right because I was the only one in purple. Everybody else was wearing red.
I don't know. We all I know is Georgia lost their coach for Charlie Condon. Come on down, brother. So.
Yeah.
All right, look, thank you guys a ton. I appreciate it. For those that are viewing this on the YouTube channel, catch the video later. I'm going to tag all these guys. Make sure to check out. These are some of the most knowledgeable college baseball fans and content creators in the country, bar none, not just on LSU in the country. But, guys, I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get a chance to maybe do this a little bit later, maybe when it comes time for Omaha, hopefully. So thank y'all very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Later.
All right, so until then, everybody, y'all stay safe. And as always, go Tigers.